In El Paso, Texas, a man was on the phone as he entered Pax's diner. He reassured the person on the line. "I'm almost there, and I have the info," he added. "I told you, I'd get it." Inside, John Wick, the woman in charge, kindly inquired. "Can I help you, sir?" John replied, "Ma'am, saw some pretty good-looking pie in the window." She told John to sit down. Just as the woman was about to address John's request, the man from the phone call earlier interrupted. He was with a companion. He claimed to have arrived first and requested a rare strip steak. The woman acknowleded his request and assured him it would be prepared. Turning back to John, she suggested, "If you prefer a quieter spot, you can sit on the counter." John replied, "I've always liked it quiet." Meanwhile, the man and the woman he was with began their conversation. 1515 Auckland Avenue, apartment 5B. He rented it under the name Baker. The man disclosed to her. She replied, "It's just around the corner." John was seated, sipping his drink, engrossed in the book he had brought along. His focus was interrupted when the woman addressed him, saying, "Tell Picos we can arrange this anytime, even tonight." John began to reply, "Thank you," but was cut off as the man raised his voice, exclaiming that he didn't have all day and questioning how long it took to cook a piece of meat. He also demanded to know what the woman was staring at, growing visibly impatient. The man then shifted his attention to John Wick and asserted that he was talking to him. John turned in his direction. "Hey, no need for trouble," the lady reassured John. She turned to him and inquired, "You prefer a quiet setting, right?" Then she informed to the other man that she had his steak ready. However, the man had lost interest and bluntly told her to forget about it. They promptly left, stating that they had other matters to attend to. 13 minutes later, John Wick entered the building and cautiously pushed the door open, ready for self-defense. To his surprise, he found himself facing a cat. He quickly exited the building. Outside, John was engaged in a conversation with the man. The man argued, "I already told you, the AC is broken. It's much cooler on the ground floor, but it's okay up here." John, standing by the window, replied, "I liked it quiet." 12 years ago in El Sudel, California, John was fleeing from a group of men who were in hot pursuit. "Stop that kid!" one of the men yelled. "Nobody messes with the 3 bills and gets away with it." Another shouted, raising his gun. Blame started to fail on Pecos, with accusation that he was trying to run a business and allowing a child to interfere with their stash. "Oh, come on, he's funny," one of them remarked. The kid leaped from one car to another and then vaulted over a fence. The pursuing men were left in disbelief by his agility. "This isn't cute, he's escaping," exclaimed the man with a heart in his head, but his companion urged him to stay calm. One of them fired a bazooka, creating a deafening explosion in his vicinity. In the current moment, John reclined on a couch, seeking some respite. His tranquility was interrupted by the sound of a cut, causing him to stir from his rest. As he peered through the window, he spotted a shadowy figure. Through the glasses, he witnessed a group of men pointing gun and intimidated another individual in another room. It was at this very moment that John recalled the words of the lady he had met at the hotel. "No trouble for now, huh?" John's memory was jogged by the lady's earlier words. "You liked it quiet, right?" In that instant, he sprang to his feet, hastily searching for something. One of the armed men in the room queried, "Pecos, what are you gazing at? We've got a target to rob." Without warning, John leaped through the window with remarkable agility, prompting one of the men who had mentioned the planned robbery to exclaim, "What the hell?" The disbelief was palpable as John shattered the window and landed inside. Before he could utter a word, John swiftly delivered a powerful blow to the man's throat. He disarmed his assailant and fired a shot, hitting one of the attackers in the leg as the individual attempted to advance. "Come on, boys, take him down," one of them yelled. John seized one of them by the collar, brandishing his gun and aiming it at the person's chest. The man pleaded with John not to kill him, and in response, John fired a shot at the man's foot, commanded, "Move out the way." He subdued all of his adversaries. The leader of the group, who was laying in the ground, managed to grab one of the guns. In an instant, John forcefully kicked the weapon out of his hand. "Oh, Jesus!" the man shouted, clutching his face in pain. John then began to interrogate him, asking, "You're the guy from the diner, aren't you?" The man expressed his remorse and pleaded with John not to end his life. John clarified that he wasn't there for them. His mission was to find Pecos. "Who the hell are you?" John demanded, his gun pointed directly at the remaining survivor. John stepped closer and stated, 12 years ago, in Mexico." The man he was addressing suddenly exclaimed, "Oh my God, Johnny, that's you, isn't it? You've grown up after all these years. You look incredible. We thought you were dead, but you've made it." The man attempted to distract John by mentioning, "They liked you. So did Billy and Buffalo. I can't express how relieved I am to have a chance to make things right." As he reached for a gun concealed at his back, John swiftly disarmed him and fired a shot, causing the man to collapse lifeless onto the ground, blood pouring out. John proceeded to search the man and discovered a phone in his pocket. Retrieving it, it was at that moment that Sharon appeared. Sharon inquired about John's well-being, to which John replies that he was fine, adding, "It's been a very long time." Sharon asked if John was involved in this business, to which John clarifies that it was a personal matter. "Now, if you pardon me for a moment." Sharon sat as he walked toward where the gun lay on the floor. One of the men who was still alive attempted to inform him that John hadn't come for them, but for Pecos. However, Sharon remained unconvinced by their words as he picked up the gun and swiftly shot them. Sharon made a call to Daniel and politely requested a dinner reservation. Daniel's voice came through the phone, expressing his enthusiasm. "That would be wonderful." Turning to John, Sharon mentioned, "I'm surprised to see you here, and I'm sure you're equally surprised to see me too." He expressed his gratitude to Wick for his assistance, acknowledging that he wasn't originally part of Wick's agenda. Sharon explained to Wick that both Billy and Buffalo are members of the local Continental, and thus would have a considerable advantage over you. "Should you be planning to pursue them?" Sharon asked Wick. He went on to share some background information, stating, "The Continental El Paso branch was established in 1909. Sharon assured Wick that given their past association with Wick's current assistants, he would be pleased to introduce Wick to this institution. However, now that Wick was an adult, he would be expected to learn and adhere to the house rules. Sharon escorted John to the police office, where they encountered Douglas. Douglas inquired if everything was alright, to which Sharon responded, "Allow me to introduce my friend." He introduced John to Douglas. Meanwhile, a woman from behind made a phone call to Maria, informing her that the heist had failed and that Pecos, along with everyone else, was dead. Maria, remaining composed, asked her to calm down and provide her name. In the midst of the meeting, the speaker addressed the attendees, saying, "Ladies and gentlemen, it has come to our attention that there is a freelancer in town who has not been properly introduced to our organization." A woman in a striking red gown stepped forward and asked, "Now, who would like to assist me in taking down John Wick?" Sharon introduced Wick to the Continental in El Paso. Although Wick wasn't immediately impressed, Sharon reassured him not to be concerned. As they entered the hotel, Wick remarked that the interior was far more appealing. Sharon explained that their patrons were different from what the public might imagine. They were true professionals. Sharon further assured John that no matter which branch of the Continental they visited around the world, members could always expect the best. As they stepped into another room within the hotel, they encountered two men seated at a table. One of them warmly greeted Sharon, mentioning that they were enjoying a drink before breakfast and everything was just perfect. It was a curious sight to see rivals during the day now sharing a table. This was how the Continental operated. One of the men explained to John that the first rule of the Continental was to keep business matters off the hotel's premises. John was intrigued and asked for clarification, to which Sharon replied, "Anything that demands resources, even an unscheduled dinner reservation." The woman accompanying them introduced herself to John as Maria.
She proceeded to mention that some of her associates had spoken highly of his skills, and others were so astounded by their encounter with him that they found themselves at a loss for words. In fact, Maria added, "I fear they may never speak again." John gazed at her. Their conversation continued, with Sharon explained to Wick that as a guest of the Continental, he was entitled to the protection provided by their rules while on the premises. However, there was another matter to address, which was the prohibition of any attacks on the Continental staff members. Mr. Wick was expected to adhere to these same rules. Sharon turned to John and asked, "Isn't that correct, Mr. Wick?" John agreed. Sharon then apologized for his directness, explaining that he had been attacked the previous night. He inquired if Maria still employed someone named Pecos, to which she replied, "May I?" Sharon responded, "Of course." Maria extended her apologies to Sharon, expressing regret for not addressing the matter at the start of their conversation. She opened her purse and retrieving some coins before explaining that Pecos had gone rogue, operating without any authorization from her organization. Sharon accepted her apology and suggested considering the matter closed, but Maria disagreed. She felt the need to express her gratitude to Mr. Wick for handling the problem. She told John, "If you're looking for work, Mr. Wick, I would be more than happy to discuss further opportunities." John politely declined, mentioning that he was a temporary visitor in town and the matter with Pecos was his personal concern. However, Maria insisted that he view it as a gift, not a payment, free from any obligations. Maria proposed a different kind of gift. "If anyone asks," he said, "tell them Pecos survived." She offered a piece of advice to John, stating that in their line of work, life becomes easier when they let go of personal matters. After expressing her gratitude to Sharon and Wick, she rose to leave, telling Wick, "We will have the pleasure of seeing you again." John's phone beeped. It was the phone that he had taken from the man he had incapacitated earlier. The text message was from Buffalo, asking if Pecos were there and mentioning rumors about Pecos being shot. John responded, confirming that he had been shot but was okay now. Buffalo inquired about who had shot him, and John replied that it was John Wick, the kid from Mexico. John then cautioned Buffalo to pay attention, explaining that Billy had hired Wick to kill him, and he might be the next target. He advised Buffalo to watch his back and abruptly ceased responding to the messages. Buffalo's anxiety continued to mount as his men inquired about his distress. He explained to them that Billy had sent an individual to eliminate Pecos and that they were likely the next targets. One of his men swiftly proposed, "We need to find John Wick." Meanwhile, John was strolling down the street, making his way to his temporary dwelling in the vacant building located at Auckland. And known to him, Buffalo's men were tailing him, all armed and ready. However, luck wasn't on their side, as Sonofa's men unexpectedly arrived on the scene. Sonofa, on the phone with Buffalo, demanded to know why Buffalo's men were there, claiming that they were searching for John Wick. Buffalo then mentioned that Pecos had told him that he was trying to kill him. Sonofa, equally surprised, "He said you were trying to kill me? Call your boys to calm down," he said to Sonofa. The situation quickly devolved into chaos as both groups of men erupted into a fierce of violent confrontation, and shots ringing out in the room. John Wick suddenly emerged on the scene, and some of the men, upon spotting him, immediately called for his elimination. Wick remarked, "You haven't changed much, huh?" The man swiftly redirected their attention toward John and opened fire. Amid the chaos, one of them questioned, "Did we get him?" While another responded, "I don't know." They spotted him running and one of them shouted, "There he is!" Undeterred, John charged toward them, taking them down one by one. Amid the struggle, Sonofa yelled, "Get the ammo, you morons!" However, John's combat skills proved to be superior, and he defeated all of the men in the confrontation. Thank you for watching this comic-style John Wick video. If you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing, sharing, and giving it a thumbs up. If you're a fan of survival comics, be sure to check out our latest video featuring The Walking Dead. Stay tuned for more thrilling content.